Alright everyone, we start off today first with an acknowledgement that yesterday was probably Joe Biden's worst day of his presidency, arguably even worse than right after the Afghanistan withdrawal. You've got another new poll out from Rasmussen that actually concurs basically with the Quinnipiac poll, showing him losing a massive new amount of support. I think the prior poll had him at a gap of 17, this one has him at a gap of 20. He's not moving in a very positive direction. His support right now, his disapproval would be skyrocketing by multiple points if it weren't for a couple of push polls that use an aggregation system that is not registered voters, not likely voters, just adults. When you don't fix for those things, you end up with Biden having considerably more popularity because a lot of apathetic people that aren't even registered apparently support him. Low-info voters, I guess, that probably won't even vote. Well, that doesn't matter for metric purposes. Anyway, we got to talk about Clinton 2024, because it's probably not going to happen. I know that Biden has failed at everything. He has accomplished nothing. He's just been handed two legendary-level failures in a row. His approval's still falling. Kamala somehow is even less liked. Their presidency, the asterisk administration, is effectively a lame duck already. In 1 year, Biden has managed to eclipse almost every other president in terms of failure, including presidents that had 8 years to fuck things up. That doesn't magically make Clinton viable. I'll try to explain. Link in the description, by the way, archived, of course, explaining the hype behind the possibility. The fact, by the way, that the legacy media circling wagons around Biden is even mentioning the possibility of him not being the nominee only a year into his presidency is a staggering admission of failure and the lack of support and the lack of trust, I think, that his allies have in him. They realize that he can't, by the time that the next election comes out, he won't be able to debate. He's demented. He might not even be alive by then because he's feeble. He's physically unhealthy. He's mentally even more unhealthy. They probably trust Kamala even less. She can't debate her way out of a paper bag and she's still coherent. Now, before I get into this further, keep in mind down below, if you're watching on YouTube, there will be a pinned comment with links to other video hosting sites that I use. Keep in mind, I make exclusive content every single day on those platforms that does not go on YouTube. At this point, you're insane if you're not using at least one of them. I use all 5. Now, Biden is a failure. Support's going in the wrong direction. The laundry list of things that he's done that are shitty over the course of his presidency is extreme. He's gotten 4 major court cases all against him. OSHA, race-based farm aid. There was, I think, race-based restaurant aid as well in there. The drilling leases. He nixes Keystone, but then Nord Stream goes forth. And by the way, the Senate just voted to smack him down on that. They had the votes to do that. They're officially putting their weight behind continuing sanctions on Russia's Nord Stream. Biden has argued, well, I need it for negotiations. No, you don't. No, you absolutely don't. You could admit NATO to Ukraine or something like that, but you're too big a pussy to do it because the Chinese have leverage over you through your son, because your son did dirty dealings with multiple other nations, including in China with Chinese businessmen. His ex-wife, by the way, about to write a tell-all about how he cheated on her. That would be his dead brother's widow, the one he was banging for a while. Yeah, there's going to be a memoir involved with the stripper that got pregnant and the crack smoking and the orgies, which probably involve people of dubiously legal age at one point or another. Probably was friends with Epstein. So we're going to get that before the midterms. That'll be funny. I bet the legacy media won't report on it very widely. If this were that goofball Mary Trump writing a book, it'd be a New York Times bestseller just because of how many CNN advertisements it would get for free. But Biden being a failure on foreign policy, domestic policy, economics, we've got 7% inflation now, actual price rises are almost at 10%, and for some goods, it's way higher than that. Gas prices are up something like 30+% year over year. Despite that, it does not make Hillary Clinton better. If anything, Biden has one advantage that Hillary Clinton doesn't have. It's not something that fools me. It's not something that fools, it's not going to fool a partisan Republican because they're partisan. It's not going to fool a rock-hard conservative, and I think it fools less independents now, but he does have one thing that Hillary Clinton doesn't have. He's older. He's been in office and failed, whereas she's not been in that office, so there's no way to test whether she would fail economically. But he's personable. Now, this is a creepy version of personable. Only a lunatic would look at the way he interacts with others and conceive of it as personable. But for the low-info voters who tend to lean left, they like him. They think that certainly they like him better than Hillary. Hillary is the kind of person who will straight up shank you in the back. Hillary Clinton is one of the least likable people in modern U.S. politics. She's failed twice. That's the other problem. She failed against Obama to even win in the primaries. She literally did win more votes. And this is funny to see the Democrats harping about democracy and then even considering Hillary Clinton. She doesn't support democracy in Libya. She wins more votes. Obama gets chosen instead by the electors because they think, well, Hillary's, she'll be the backup, basically. We want the first black president more than the first woman president because we did a focus group on which id poll was stronger. So Obama gets in there. Then she runs in 2016. She gets curb stomped by Trump, despite the fact that everyone and their mother, other than a handful of independent commentators, expected Hillary Clinton to be the next president. They expected her to win. By the way, let's not denigrate. For those of us who actually guessed that Trump would win, please do not try to denigrate that. You can retrospectively say, well, I always knew it was likely he'd win. No, bullshit. 90% of you were blackpilled. She's lost twice. In the first case, she didn't even win the primaries, though technically on paper winning more votes. She's done. She's older now. She's not charismatic. She didn't do well at the debates against Trump. You can rig the polls all you want, legacy media, but we know that Trump actually won those debates by and large. The second one was a little more even, but the third one he stomped her ass into a mud patch. She's not personable. She's a dynastic politician, and there's growing resentment against the concept that you would have dynastic politics. Look at what happened to Jeb Bush. The other problem is that even seriously fomenting Hillary Clinton, what a staggering admission that there's no talent within the Democratic Party. So you pass right by Buttigieg, basically he's been tainted by adjacency to Biden, who's a loser. You don't have faith in Biden, apparently. You don't have faith in Kamala Harris, and you can't find anyone under 70 to run. No other Democrat, to the point where you default to Madam Hillary, who would lose no matter who she's running against. She would lose, by the way. The American people already said no to her once. They would say no to her again, especially since the only way she could campaign is effectively to throw her predecessor Biden under the bus and say, well, I would have done things differently. Here's how. Now, she would do that. She's an absolute ice queen bitch, self-serving egotist who will throw anybody under the bus if it benefits her in any way. She'd fucking throw her own husband off a cliff if she thought it would make her more wealthy or give her a position of power. She cares about nobody but herself, which is why this kind of dangerous psychopath shouldn't even be allowed to run for the highest office in the land. Maybe there should be some sort of psychopathy test people can generally agree upon to keep people like her, Caligula 2.0, from being in office. But that being said, terrible and crazy and so forth as she might be, will she attempt a run? Will she attempt to, if Biden's running, nobody's going to challenge him. Even if he's weak. Even if he's a weak incumbent, the only thing you'll see is maybe a leftoid jumps aboard. Bernie Sanders decides to lose for a third time or something, which would be funny. The dude is a screwball even worse than Biden. That'd be funny if she tries to primary in a non-incumbent race. Biden has stepped aside and said, I'm not going to run. Watching Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris tear each other apart like wolves would definitely be funny. It would be hilarious. Well, I was vice president, secretary of state, and a senator, and all these other things, and I know how to deal with Drumpf, and you don't. And then Kamala would say, well, I've actually been in the White House, and it wasn't in a non-elected capacity. Ha, ha, ha. And they would do the bitchy thing at each other. They would destroy each other. I hope that this is the scenario that happens. I hope Biden steps aside, which is more than a 50-50 chance. I do not believe that it is seriously conceived of by any sane strategist that Biden should be the candidate in 2024. Leaving a technical quasi-incumbent Kamala, asterisk administration and VP role, but the closest thing to incumbency, versus Hillary Clinton. I would love to see the Democrats devolve to the situation where the two people trying to run are absolute egotists, are absolute cunts, tear each other apart, destroying any semblance of credibility beyond the primaries, by the way, and destroying their candidacy in the process, leading to a near clean sweep, so that we can reject them as a country quite roundly, because one of them is Biden adjacent, the other one's Epstein adjacent, and it would be a big problem for them both. I'd love to see it. It'd be fireworks. It'd be funny. Watching those two debate would be hilarious. Hillary Clinton would have the upper hand in rhetoric. Kamala would have the upper hand if she decides to do low blows and bring up anything about the Clintons' criminal past, which would probably be brought up. Remember, she was even willing to bring up the hashtag quasi-MeToo things with Biden before accepting being his VP. By the way, has she addressed her boss's sexual allegations in the last year? Methinks not. She said she believed his victims before, because she thought she had a shot in the primaries. Oh boy, that was a real stinker, because of course any reasonable person knew she didn't. Kamala could never win in a presidential election. It's impossible. I don't think Clinton could win either. We just saw, supposedly Trump was the weakest candidate with the lowest support. He's doomed, and he's a homophobe, he's a racist, he's incoherent, can't debate. Well, he still managed to beat the shit out of Hillary Clinton. So, and in some of those states, you've got defortification now, like in Florida, New Hampshire, Iowa, and Arizona. You're not going to be able to have any honk-honk go on in the next election, because you're not going to get the election federalization bill. Manchin and Sinema have effectively already blocked it. You're not going to remove the filibuster. You're not getting Build Back Better. What accomplishments does Biden have? He's a staggering failure, but I think it's unlikely. I think that the Democrats, at the end of the day, they would have to be goddamn completely insane to allow Hillary Clinton to be their nominee. If she wins the primaries, they should step her aside and say, no, we've done this twice before, fuck you, go away, we're finding someone else, we'll put Buttigieg in there to be the punching bag. They would be absolutely insane to allow Hillary Clinton to run, especially considering, what did she do right after she lost the last time? You know, in the 2016 election, she doesn't accept the results of and called illegitimate. She never got canceled, by the way, by any of the big tech firms by saying so. It's very interesting how that claim of fraud, which was declarative in nature by her and by Kamala, oddly, was never punished. While the Chinese told him to say that, it was foreign election interference attempts. And then, of course, Russiagate was continuation of that. Again, China adjacent. Here's the thing. The Democrats have just gone crazy. Hillary Clinton's already crazy. I don't think that she could possibly do it. I would imagine the Democrats will have just enough intelligence to try to find somebody else. And it won't be Kamala, unless they're crazy. These two are unqualified individuals. Find somebody new that's not dynastic or incapable of debating. You know, Joe Kennedy exists. Put him in there just to piss the Justice Democrats off. At least it'd be funny. That's about all. Peace out.